The envelope was cream-colored, expensive paper, the kind that whispered money even before you touched it. It was sitting there when I opened my eyes that morning, slipped under my door sometime while I slept. No name on it, no return address, just that single envelope on dark wood floors catching the early light. I should have been afraid. Maybe I was. But curiosity is stronger than fear when you've been living in questions for months. I picked it up. My hands were steady. I remember being surprised by that. Inside was a photograph. Not of me, not of Marcus. It was a woman, beautiful, with dark hair that fell in waves past her shoulders and eyes that seemed to look right through the camera. She was laughing in the photo, her head thrown back, caught in a moment of pure joy. The kind of joy I'd never seen in this house. Behind her, barely visible in the background, was Marcus, younger, maybe by 5 or 6 years. And he was smiling and actually smiling, looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. I turned the photo over. 3 words written in elegant handwriting. She was first. My stomach dropped. I didn't go down to breakfast that morning. I couldn't face Marcus. Not yet. Not with this photograph burning in my hands and 1,000 questions tearing through my mind. Who was she? Where was she now? And why was I just finding out about her? Clara knocked around 10. Mrs. Harrington? Are you unwell? Mrs. Harrington. I still wasn't used to being called that. I'm fine, Clara. Just tired. A pause, then her voice, softer. Mr. Harrington asked about you. That made me look up. He did? He wanted to know if you were all right, if you needed anything. I stared at the photograph still clutched in my hand. Clara, how long have you worked here? 15 years next month. So, you knew Marcus's father. I did. Her tone became careful, that same carefulness I'd learned to recognize. And you knew other people who lived here before me? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd left. Then, I knew Miss Sophia, yes. Sophia, the woman in the photograph, had a name. What happened to her? I asked. That's not my story to tell, Mrs. Harrington. If you want to know about Sophia, you should ask Mr. Harrington directly. She left before I could push further. But now I had a name. And names have power. I found Marcus in his study that evening. I'd never been inside before. The door was always closed, like everything else about him. But tonight, it was open just enough to see him sitting behind a massive desk, papers scattered in front of him. His tie loosened for the first time since I'd met him. He looked exhausted. Can I come in? I asked. He glanced up, and something flickered across his face when he saw me. Relief, maybe, or surprise that I'd come to him. Of course. I stepped inside, the photograph hidden in the pocket of my cardigan. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. I need to ask you something. He set down his pen. All right. Who is Sophia? The change in him was instant. His entire body went rigid, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jump. The exhaustion in his eyes transformed into something sharper, something that looked like pain. Where did you hear that name? I pulled out the photograph and placed it on his desk. Marcus stared at it like I'd set down a bomb. For a long moment, he didn't move, didn't breathe, just looked at that image of a younger version of himself with a woman who made him smile. Then he picked it up with fingers that weren't quite steady. Where did you get this? His voice was barely above a whisper. Someone slipped it under my door this morning. His eyes snapped to mine, and I saw fear again. Real fear. Someone was in the house? I don't know. Maybe it was left there during the night, maybe earlier. I don't know, Marcus. I leaned forward. But I need you to tell me who she is. Who is Sophia? He set the photo down, carefully, like it might shatter. Then he stood and walked to the window, the same place he'd been standing when I found him at 2 a.m. His sanctuary, apparently, or his prison. Sophia was everything, he said finally. Everything I thought I wanted, everything I thought I could have. You loved her. Yes, the word was raw. I loved her. Past tense. I noticed that immediately. What happened? He was quiet for so long, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my father happened. Marcus didn't turn around as he spoke. He kept his eyes on the city below, on those thousands of lights that never touched us. I met Sophia when I was 26. She worked at a gallery downtown. Not one of the fancy ones that old money frequents. A small place, real art, real artists. She was alive in a way I'd never been. Free. His voice carried something I'd never heard before. Longing. We were together for 2 years. I was going to marry her. I had the ring. I had the plan. I was going to tell my father, and he laughed bitterly. I was so naive. What did your father do? He told me no. Marcus's reflection in the window looked like a ghost. Not a suggestion, not a request, an order. Sophia came from nothing. No family name, no connections, no use to the Harrington Empire. He said she was a distraction, a weakness, that if I married her, I'd destroy everything he'd built. But you were an adult. You could have. Could I? He finally turned to face me, and I saw something in his eyes that made my breath catch. My father didn't just build a business, Ava. He built a web. And everyone in my life, every friend, every employee, every business partner, they were all part of that web. When he said no, he didn't just mean his disapproval. Hemiant consequences. What kind of consequences? Marcus's hands curled into fists. He went after her, not physically. He was too smart for that. He destroyed her career, made sure every gallery in the city knew that hiring Sophia meant losing Harrington funding. He ruined her reputation with lies I couldn't prove. He made her life impossible. My chest felt tight. Marcus. She came to me after 3 months of it. She was broken, Ava. This vibrant, brilliant woman who used to light up entire rooms. She was broken, and she told me she couldn't do it anymore, that loving me had cost her everything. His voice cracked. She asked me to let her go, to make it stop. So you did. So I did. He closed his eyes. I let her leave, paid off my father's contacts to leave her alone if she disappeared from my life completely. And I became exactly what he wanted, the cold, controlled heir who would never make that mistake again. I stood slowly, my legs shaky. Is that why you married me? Because you knew you could never love me the way you loved her? His eyes opened, and the look he gave me was devastating. I married you because I thought I could protect you better than I protected her. If I kept you at a distance, if I never let myself feel anything, then my father's world couldn't touch you, couldn't break you the way it broke Sophia. Your father is dead, Marcus. But his deals aren't. His debts aren't. The men who came here last night, they're his legacy. And they want exactly what he wanted. Control, power, an heir to continue the dynasty. He took a step toward me. Don't you see? Everyone I've ever cared about has been used against me. Everyone I've ever loved has been destroyed. So I stopped caring. I stopped loving. I locked myself in this house and this life, and I convinced myself that cold was safe. That's not living, I whispered. That's just existing. I know. The admission seemed to cost him something. I know, Ava, but it's kept you safe. It's kept you free. You can still walk away from this. Your father's debt is paid. Our agreement can be dissolved. You can leave and live a real life, away from all of this. Is that what you want? For me to leave? He looked at me for a long, agonizing moment. No, he said quietly, but what I want has never mattered. I left his study with more questions than answers, but I understood him now, or at least I was beginning to. Marcus Harrington wasn't cold because he didn't feel. He was cold because he felt too much. And feeling, in his world, was dangerous. I understood something else, too. That photograph didn't slip under my door by accident. Someone wanted me to know about Sophia. Someone wanted me to understand that loving Marcus came with a price. The question was who? And more importantly, why now? The next few days were different. Marcus didn't avoid me anymore. He didn't seek me out either. But when our paths crossed, he'd stop. He'd ask how I was, if I'd slept well, if the book I was reading was any good. Small things, careful things, like he was testing whether I'd run now that I knew the truth. I didn't run. Maybe I should have. But something had shifted in me that night in his study. I'd seen behind the wall he'd built, and what I found there wasn't coldness. It was fear and loneliness and a kind of self-sacrifice I wasn't sure he even recognized in himself. I started leaving him notes, stupid little things. A piece of paper on the library table. I think you'd like this book. A post-it on his coffee cup. You stayed up too late again. I never signed them, but he knew they were from me. And slowly, impossibly, he started leaving notes back. Thank you for the recommendation. I'll try to sleep earlier. The roses in the East Garden are blooming. You should see them. We were having a conversation in fragments, in small, safe pieces that neither of us had to acknowledge out loud. It was ridiculous. It was also the most intimate thing I'd ever experienced. Clara noticed, of course. He's different with you, she said one afternoon while we had tea in the sunroom. Different how? She smiled. The first real smile I'd seen from her. Present. He's been a ghost in this house for 5 years. But you're bringing him back. I don't think I'm doing anything special. You're still here. That's special enough. She poured more tea. After Sophia, I didn't think anyone would get close to him again. I certainly didn't think he'd let them. Did you like her, Sophia? I loved her. Clara's eyes went distant. She was good for him, made him laugh, made him think about things beyond business and duty. When she left, she shook her head. I watched him disappear into himself, become his father's son instead of his mother's. His mother? She died when he was 12. Cancer. She was warm where his father was cold, creative where his father was calculating. Marcus was more like her, before. Clara looked at me with sudden intensity. You remind me of her sometimes. The way you move through this house is like you're looking for something beautiful in it. I didn't know what to say to that, but that night I found a book on my bed. Old, with a worn, leather cover, a collection of poetry. Inside the front cover, written in faded ink, to my son, who sees the world in colors I cannot name. Love, Mom. And underneath, in fresh ink, Marcus's handwriting, she would have liked you. I held that book against my chest and cried for the first time since arriving in this house. Not sad tears, something else. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. Then came the benefit. You'll need to attend, Marcus said one morning at breakfast. We were sitting closer now, only 3 chairs apart instead of 10. Small progress. It's the annual Harrington Foundation charity event. The board expects both of us. Both of us. I set down my coffee. You want me to go with you? You're my wife, Ava, on paper, at least. And these people, he paused. They need to see us together. They need to believe this is real. Why? So they stop pressuring you about an heir? His jaw tightened. That and other reasons. What other reasons? He looked at me then, and I saw worry in his eyes. Because someone sent you that photograph? Someone is watching us, testing us, and I need to know who. A chill ran down my spine. You think they'll be at the benefit? I think everyone will be at the benefit, including the men who came here demanding proof of our marriage. If we show up together, unified, maybe they'll back off. Maybe we buy ourselves time to figure out what's really going on. And if they don't back off, then at least I'll know who we're fighting. We, he'd said we. Okay, I said quietly. I'll go. Relief washed over his face. Thank you. Marcus, will she be there? Sophia? He went very still. I don't know. I haven't seen her in 5 years. Haven't heard from her. For all I know, she left the country after everything my father did. But you still love her. It wasn't a question, but he answered anyway. I'll always love what we had, what we could have been. He met my eyes. But that's not the same as being in love with who she is now. People change, Ava. Pain changes us. And I changed myself on purpose. What if she's moved on, found someone else? Then I hope they treat her better than I did. The sadness in his voice made my heart ache. The benefit was 3 days away. Clara helped me choose a dress. Deep emerald green, elegant without being flashy. She did my hair in a simple updo that made me look older, more sophisticated, more like someone who belonged on Marcus Harrington's arm. I barely recognized myself in the mirror. You look beautiful, dear, Clara said softly. I didn't feel beautiful. I felt like I was wearing armor. Maybe that's what beauty was in Marcus's world. Protection. A mask. He was waiting for me at the bottom of the stairs. And when he saw me, he stopped breathing. Just for a second. But I saw it. The way his eyes widened slightly. The way his hand came up, then dropped, like he'd almost reached for me and caught himself. You look. He cleared his throat. You look perfect. So do you. And he did. A black tuxedo that fit him like it was made for his body specifically, which it probably was. Hair styled back. But it was his eyes that caught me. They weren't cold tonight. They were something else entirely. Nervous, maybe. Ready? He asked. No, not even close. Yes, I said anyway. He offered me his arm. I took it. And for the first time since signing my name 17 times, I walked beside Marcus Harrington like I actually belonged there. The car ride was quiet but different from before. He kept glancing at me, quick looks like he was checking if I was still real. Are you nervous? I asked. Always. At these things. He adjusted his cufflinks. I hate performing. Performing? Pretending to be the version of Marcus Harrington they expect. Charming, connected, cold in all the right ways. He looked out the window. It's exhausting. Then don't, I said. Don't perform. Just be. He turned to me, something unreadable in his expression. You make it sound simple. Maybe it is. Maybe we've both been making it too complicated. The car pulled up to a building made of glass and light. People everywhere. Cameras, reporters. Marcus's hand found mine. Stay close to me, he said quietly. No matter what happens tonight, stay close. I squeezed his hand. I will. We stepped out of the car together. And that's when I saw her, standing across the entrance, in a silver dress that caught every light, was the woman from the photograph, Sophia. And she was staring right at Marcus like he was a ghost she'd never expected to see again. The world slowed down. Marcus saw her the same moment I did. I felt his entire body go rigid beside me, his hand tightening on mine almost painfully. Marcus, I whispered. He didn't respond. Couldn't, maybe. He was frozen, staring at the woman he'd loved and lost 5 years ago. And she was walking toward us. No, not us. Him. She moved through the crowd like water, people parting without even realizing it. Her eyes never left Marcus's face, and in those eyes, I saw something that made my stomach twist. She wasn't angry. She wasn't hurt. She was scared. Marcus, she said when she reached us. Her voice was softer than I expected. Musical. I didn't think you'd be here. He finally found his voice. Sophia, what are you doing here? I was invited. She glanced at me, then back to him. As the guest of Richard Castellano. Marcus's face went white. Richard, you know him, don't you? He speaks very highly of the Harrington family. Her smile was tight, forced. He's been helpful since I've been back in the city. Sophia, Marcus started, but she wasn't done. She leaned in closer, her voice dropping so low I almost couldn't hear it. We need to talk. Alone. It's important, Marcus. It's about your father, about what he did. Her eyes flicked to me again, and I saw apology there. About what Richard is planning to do. Sophia, I can't just... He's using me to get to you. Her voice cracked slightly. And I think he's using her too. She was looking at me now, and suddenly everything clicked into place. The photograph under my door, the timing of her appearance. The men are demanding an heir. Richard Castellano, one of the gray-suited men who'd threatened Marcus. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a trap, and we'd just walked right into it. Mrs. Harrington, what a pleasure to finally meet you properly. The voice came from behind us, smooth, cultured, dangerous. I turned. Richard Castellano stood there, gray hair perfectly styled, wearing a smile that didn't reach his shark eyes. The same man from the photograph. The same man who'd come to our house, demanding an heir. Mr. Castellano, Marcus said, his voice controlled despite the tension radiating from him. I didn't realize Sophia was attending as your guest. Didn't you? Richard's smile widened. How odd. I thought you kept such close tabs on everything important to you. But then again, maybe Miss Sophia isn't important anymore. Not now that you have this lovely young wife. His eyes moved over me in a way that made my skin crawl. Marcus stepped slightly in front of me, his body becoming a shield. What do you want, Richard? Want? I want what I've always wanted, what your father promised me. Richard pulled out a folded paper from his jacket. I want you to honor the contract. What contract? I asked before I could stop myself. Richard's eyes gleamed. Oh, your husband didn't tell you? How disappointing. And here I thought marriages were built on honesty. Ava, don't listen to him, Marcus said. But Richard was already unfolding the paper. This contract, signed by your husband's father 15 years ago, promises a very specific arrangement. You see, Mrs. Harrington, your husband doesn't just owe me a business deal. He owes me something much more valuable. He held out the paper. I didn't want to look. Every instinct screamed not to, but I looked anyway. And what I read there made my blood turn to ice. The contract was simple, brutal in its simplicity. In exchange for Richard Castellano's silence about certain illegal activities conducted by Marcus's father, the Harrington family agreed to the following terms. 1. Marcus Harrington would marry before his 30th birthday. 2. Marcus Harrington would produce a male heir within 2 years of said marriage. 3. Upon producing said heir, custody would be shared equally between the Harrington family and the Castellano family until the child reached age 18. 4. Said heir would be groomed to merge the Harrington and Castellano empires. The paper shook in my hands. You see now, Richard said pleasantly, this isn't just about business. It's about legacy. Your husband's father guaranteed me a piece of the Harrington dynasty, and Marcus here thought he could avoid it by marrying you but keeping you at arm's length. Quite clever, really. No intimacy, no child, no obligation. He stepped closer, but I've grown impatient and I've decided to encourage things along. That's why you sent the photograph, I whispered. You wanted me to know about Sophia, to create doubt, discord. Smart girl. Richard smiled, though I must admit I didn't expect you to actually grow closer. That's been an interesting development, one that works in my favor, actually. Marcus's voice was deadly quiet. You will not touch her. Oh, I don't need to touch her, Marcus. You will. Because now that she knows the truth, now that she understands what's at stake, she has a choice to make. Richard turned to me. You can refuse, of course. Walk away from this marriage. But then, what happens to Marcus? The contract still stands. He still needs an heir. And I have other candidates, ready and willing. Like dear Sophia, for instance. Sophia made a small sound of protest, but Richard ignored her. Or, he continued, you can fulfill your wifely duties. Give Marcus the heir he needs. And in doing so, chain yourself to this family forever. Because once there's a child, Mrs. Harrington, you'll never be free. None of you will. The room was spinning. There's a third option, I said, my voice shaking but steady. We go to the police. We expose this contract. What you're doing is illegal. It's coercion. Richard laughed. With what proof? This contract was witnessed by 3 judges, all now deceased. And the illegal activities it references? They implicate the Harrington family just as much as they protect it. You expose me. You destroy everything Marcus has worked to preserve. His company, his reputation, the hundreds of people who depend on Harrington Industries for their livelihoods. He was right, and he knew it. We were trapped, all of us. So here's what's going to happen, Richard said, his voice turning cold. You're going to smile for the camera tonight. You're going to convince everyone here that your marriage is blissfully happy. And then you're going to go home and start working on that heir. Because you have exactly 6 months, Marcus. 6 months. Or I start taking things from you, starting with this company you love so much. Then the house. Then everyone you care about. His eyes drifted to Sophia. Everyone. The rest of the benefit was a blur. Marcus and I moved through the crowd like automatons, smiling, shaking hands, playing the part of the happy couple while my mind screamed with questions and fear. Sophia disappeared into the crowd. I didn't see where she went. Richard watched us from across the room all night, that terrible smile never leaving his face. When we finally got home, Marcus went straight to his study and poured himself a drink. Then another, then another. I stood in the doorway watching him. "Say something," I finally whispered. He slammed the glass down. "What do you want me to say, Ava? That I'm sorry? That I never wanted this? That I hate myself for dragging you into my father's mess? I want you to tell me what we're going to do." "We?" He laughed bitterly. "There is no we. You're going to leave. Tonight, I'll arrange everything. You'll be on a plane by morning, somewhere Richard can't find you. Somewhere safe." "No." "Ava." "No, Marcus." I walked into the room. "I'm not leaving. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You think pushing me away protects me, just like you pushed away Sophia. Just like you've pushed away everyone who ever cared about you." I stood in front of him. "But I'm not Sophia. I'm not going to let you sacrifice yourself alone. You don't owe me anything. Maybe not. But you owe yourself something better than this. Better than spending the rest of your life trapped by your father's choices." "There is no better, Ava. This is what my life is, what it's always been." "Then change it. We change it. Together." He stared at me like I was speaking another language. "How?" "You heard Richard. We have 6 months. 6 months to produce an heir or lose everything." "So we don't give him an heir." Marcus blinked. "What?" "We don't give him what he wants. We find another way." I took a breath. "You said those judges are dead. What if the contract isn't even legally binding anymore? What if we can prove coercion? What if—" "Ava, stop." But there was something in his voice, something that wasn't quite hopelessness anymore. "What if we fight?" I said quietly. "What if, instead of running or hiding or sacrificing, we actually fight back?" He looked at me for a long moment. Then he did something I never expected. He reached out and touched my face. Gentle, tentative, like I might disappear. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you stay? Why would you fight for me?" I put my hand over his. "Because someone should. Because you deserve it. And because—" I paused, realizing the truth even as I said it. "Because somewhere in the last few months, you stopped being just a transaction, Tome." His eyes searched mine. "What are you saying?" I didn't have an answer, not one I was ready to say out loud. But the truth was there, sitting heavy in my chest. I was starting to care about Marcus Harrington, and that changed everything. We stayed up all night, making plans. Marcus pulled out files his father had kept, documents, records, everything he could find about Richard Castellano and the contract and the alleged illegal activities. "If we're going to fight," he said, "we need ammunition." I helped him sort through decades of paper trails. It was overwhelming, complicated, but somewhere in all of it, there had to be something we could use. Dawn was breaking when Marcus finally leaned back in his chair, exhausted. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For not running, for not giving up on me." "I haven't given up on you, Marcus. I'm just getting started." He smiled, actually smiled, small but real, and I realized I'd do almost anything to see that smile again. We were in trouble, deep, dangerous trouble. Richard Castellano had us trapped. Sophia was caught in the middle, and 6 months wasn't enough time to dismantle a contract built on decades of corruption. But for the first time since marrying Marcus Harrington, I felt like I wasn't alone in this anymore. Neither was he. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start fighting back. That's where I'm leaving you today, because what happened next? Well, that changes everything. Sophia contacted Marcus the next morning with information about Richard that could either save us or destroy us completely. We had to decide whether to trust her, the woman Marcus once loved, the woman who might still have feelings for him. And me? I had to decide whether I was ready for what fighting back would actually cost. Because Richard wasn't the only threat we were facing. There was something else, something we hadn't seen yet, something that had been watching us from the beginning, and it was about to make its move. What do you think Marcus should do? Trust Sophia and risk everything? Or find another way? Drop a comment with where you're watching from and tell me, would you fight or would you run? Because the choice they make next will determine not just their future, but whether they survive at all.